I'm Dutch, and we have a reputation.
Dutch people are so stingy.
They're pretty stingy and they don't like to share.
Hey Siri, are the Dutch stingy?
They are stingy AF. If being stingy were an Olympic sport, the Dutch would win gold.
What? So are we stingy? Are we cheap? I don't think so, but we are good at being frugal. And with the high cost of living these days, I actually think that's an important skill to have. If we haven't met, I'm Peter. I'm just a regular guy in his 40s from the Netherlands, trying to simplify my life and get ahead financially. And today I want to share 12 Dutch frugal habits that can help you save money. For me, these habits aren't about being cheap. They're about feeling relaxed around money. And I hope one or two will resonate with you too. Split the bill. Have you ever had dinner with friends, then the waiter comes with the bill, and there's this awkward moment. Is someone going to pick it up, or are we going to ask the waiter to make up our individual bills? In the Netherlands, it's common to split the bill based on what each person ordered, rather than expecting one person to treat. It's so deeply ingrained in the culture that the rest of the world named it after us.
Tell you what, we'll go Dutch.
We'll go Dutch.
I'm not going Dutch, so.
I'd rather go Dutch.
And we've developed the perfect mobile app for going Dutch or splitting the bill. Tikkie. It's a mobile app that lets you send a payment request to someone else.
Are you even living in the Netherlands if you don't have Tikkie? Like that app is like a national badge of recognition.
Tikkie allows everyone to order according to their budget without worry. And when you go online, you'll find people telling these super stingy horror stories about getting tikkies for the smallest things.
I have received tikkies for using a bit of their mayonnaise or a fruit.
I once heard a story that someone sent another person a tikkie for borrowing my t-shirt of €1 or something.
I'm sure these things happen, but I think they are the exceptions. But if you have a really good tikkie story, I'd love to read about it in the comments. You know, for me, I approach it differently. I don't want to owe anything to anyone. So if I'm with my brother or with a friend and we're having lunch and they pick up the bill, I'll ask them to send me a tikkie afterwards. I just think it's bad etiquette to have someone else pick up the bill for me and then not offer to pay my part and ask them to send me a tikkie. Just because it's more practical that one person pays the bill instead of asking the waiter to split the bill for every single person at the table, doesn't mean you get a free meal, or that others get to take advantage of you if you're the one paying. Before you be messing around with cash, Tikkie just makes things easier when you're splitting the bill. Pack your own lunch. When you go to work, what do you eat for lunch? In the Netherlands, it's completely normal to pack your own lunch. And not just to work, but also for a picnic, or when you go to a theme park, or just when you go somewhere in the weekend and you want to avoid high venue prices. Eating out is expensive in the Netherlands. It's reserved for special occasions. So if you have to buy lunch every day at or around the office, that can really add up. Unless your employer sponsors your lunch. Like when I worked as a corporate lawyer, I believe I could opt in for about €30 a month, and then I had access to the buffet. Which, I mean, I say buffet, but it was mostly bread and, different topics, cheese, of course, because the Dutch can eat a sandwich with cheese every time of the day. Maybe you won't hit your protein goals with it, but it's quick, it tastes great, and you won't go broke over it.
It's like broodje kaas. It's just like very underwhelming.
But not everyone is that lucky that their employer offers lunch for free or at a discount. When I grew up, my dad always took his own lunch to work. I remember my mom making it the night before. Taking your own lunch to work is even a recurring joke in Debiteuren Crediteuren, a famous sketch from the Dutch comedy show Juskevet that aired in the 1990s.
Nou, en jij? Goddammit, ik heb één met kaas. Jij?
Nou, 2 ruilen tegen één zo'n bruine met kaas?
Zo, nou, daar zeg ik geen nee tegen.
Packing your own lunch can easily save you thousands of dollars or euros each year. Get your coffee at work. The average Dutch person drinks about 4 cups of coffee per day, and I'm definitely team coffee. Wait, let me actually take a sip. It's just so good. Like, I don't know how I could ever give this up. The majority drink their coffee either black or with milk. Not that sugary nonsense like pistachio cream frappuccinos. If you have to buy each coffee at a cafe, that can quickly add up. But almost every company in the Netherlands has a coffee machine. Now, it's not always the best coffee. I'm speaking from experience here. When I worked as a call center agent as a student, the coffee there was terrible. But at least it was free. Oh, by the way, when I was doing my research for this video, I came up with way more frugal habits than I can discuss here. So I created this long list of 100 frugal habits to save money, and you can download it by clicking the link in the description below. Okay, so we've covered 3 Dutch frugal habits so far. But you might be thinking,
the Netherlands, isn't it like a really rich country? Why would anyone want to be frugal there?
Well, it's expensive to live in the Netherlands. The average income for 2025 was €46,500. Depending on where you're from, you may think, wow, that's a lot. But it doesn't matter how rich you are on a global scale. What matters is how much your money is worth in your own country. So let's begin with taxes. They're high in the Netherlands. There's a progressive tax rate where you pay 49.5% on anything you make above €78,000. So any euro you make above that, half of it goes to the government. To me, that just feels like you're being punished for doing well. I get that it's fair that bigger shoulders carry heavier burdens and that this is how the social safety net is funded. But come on, you're rich maybe when you start earning 120k, 150k, 200k a year. Paying 50% above €78,000 is insane. Especially when a Dutch household with an average income and average rent or mortgage spends about 55% of their net income on fixed expenses. And that number is from 2019. And with the housing crisis, where both sale prices and rents have gone up astronomically, 288% in the last 25 years, that number may be even higher today. Just a month ago, I read that a couple with two average incomes nowadays don't earn enough to qualify for the mortgage needed to buy an average-priced home on the Dutch housing market. And then when you spend your hard-earned money, most of what you buy has 21% BTW on it, which is value-added tax. Last year, there was even talk about increasing it to 21.4%. So you already paid half the income tax, and now you're charged another high tax when you spend your money. One thing everyone needs is groceries. And they're expensive in the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's crazy. 1 kilo of chicken is €17. Now it makes a little bit more sense why the Dutch eat cheese and bread for lunch. It's the cheapest you can find here.
According to the Dutch Consumers Association, the Consumentenbond, groceries are on average 12% cheaper in Belgium, 15% cheaper in Germany, and even 20% cheaper in France. And transportation is expensive too. The gas price in the Netherlands is the highest in all of Europe. The national average is currently €2.03 per liter. But if you're driving on the highway, you can easily pay 10 or 20 cents more, up to €2.24 per liter. I was in Thailand just 2 months ago, and it cost me less than €1 for a liter of the exact same gas. For comparison, I looked up the average gas price in the US. It's about $2.88 for 1 gallon. 1 gallon is about 3.8 liters. So if you're American and use the gallons, and hopefully my math is correct here, the price for 1 gallon of fuel is $9 to $10 in the Netherlands. So what about public transport? Well, you're not much better off.
The Netherlands is arguably the most expensive country in the world for public transport. In fact, Dutch public transport is 35% more expensive than other EU countries.
So I no longer live in the Netherlands. I've lived abroad since 2013, but I travel home regularly, and then I stay with my parents who live in Dordrecht. When I have to take the train from Schiphol Airport or Eindhoven Airport to Dordrecht, or when I take the train from Dordrecht to Amsterdam to see a friend, I'm always shocked by how much I have to pay for a train ticket. A return ticket from Dordrecht to Amsterdam, which is about 1.5 hours, costs €47. That's about $56. And then I haven't even had a coffee or lunch yet. Yet the Dutch railways have increased their prices for 2026 by 6.5%. Meanwhile, Spain is launching a €60 monthly nationwide public transport pass. This is a national pass that will allow people to travel anywhere in the country by bus or train for a flat monthly fee of €60. Germany already has something similar, the Deutschland ticket, which costs €63. In the Netherlands, you can also get a train ticket to travel anywhere in the country, and it costs around the same, €66. But here's the catch. It's a day pass. All this to say, it pays to be frugal in the Netherlands. Now, before we move on, I want to stress that the Dutch are not cheap. Being frugal and being cheap are two completely different things. For example, in December of every year, there's an event called 3FM Serious Request. This is a yearly charity campaign where a couple of radio DJs lock themselves in a glass house for a week and raise funds for a charity. And in December 2025, they raised a record €18,400,000 for Spieren, which funds research and support for children with muscle diseases. Alright, after that little intermezzo, let's continue with Frugal Dutch Habit number 4. Shop at the Aldi or Lidl. Aldi and Lidl are the cheapest supermarkets in the Netherlands, way cheaper than, for example, the Albert Heijn. So a lot of people will do their main groceries at the Aldi and the Lidl. Maybe they also go to a local market if there is one. and then supplement certain products from the more expensive supermarkets like the Albert Heijn that I just mentioned or the Jumbo. And what's a great way of saving money about these more expensive supermarkets is that often they have these discount deals which you can check in their app. Albert Heijn even offers hamster bacon, where they offer a large number of buy one get one free deals on everyday products. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't always like this approach. When I grew up, my mom would do most of our groceries at the Aldi. So she would come home with 3S Cola, if you know, you know, instead of Coca-Cola, or some random brand licorice instead of Vengodrop, which is a brand that I like that you could only get at the more expensive supermarket. But now that I'm a responsible adult and I have to make my own money, I do the exact same thing. I do most of my groceries at the cheaper supermarket. Oh, and there's one thing that's even better than a discount. Gratis, which means free. Nothing gets the Dutch blood pumping like gratis. Save every month.
Ben jij goed met je financiën? Ja, ik ben zelfs een beetje braaf met mijn financiën. Ik ben een enorme spaarder. Dat doe ik eigenlijk al mijn hele leven.
That was actress Jennifer Hoffman, one of many Dutch people who like to save. Saving is in the Dutch nature. And what helps is that your bank deposit is protected up to €100,000 by the Dutch National Bank. So if your bank goes bankrupt, and during the 2008 financial crisis we've seen that it is possible, you're guaranteed to get 100K back. And that is way more than most people have in their savings accounts anyway. There's also NIBUD, the National Institute for Family Finance Information, an independent Dutch organization that helps people understand and manage their money. But it starts young. Like half of my family are teachers, and I don't personally remember this from when I was in school, but they tell me that nowadays kids get classes in school on how to manage money wisely. There's even a whole online platform, geldlessen.nl, which means money lessons, with lesson materials for teachers to use. Parents give their kids pocket money at a certain age, and banks also try to help kids learn how to save. I remember when I was young, I had a penny rekening. It came with this money box where I could put coins in, and they would roll into the right compartment. Guilders with guilders, doubletjes with doubletjes, doubletjes 10 cents. Now you could argue that it would be better if people invested that money into something like an index fund instead of a low interest savings account, but that's a topic for another day. When you save, you have money for a rainy day. It's like insurance. There's a level of comfort in knowing that should something happen, you're prepared and you don't immediately have to go into debt. I wasn't always great at saving. When I was in law school, I had no money and I graduated with student loans. And then when I got my job as a corporate lawyer, I felt like letting loose and I went on a bit of a shopping spree. Also because I had to furniture my new home. For the first time in my life, like 1 year into my career, I lived on my own without roommates. But after a while, I set the goal to save €10,000 and just have that be my new zero. Like I was never allowed to go under that number again, except for emergencies. And I still follow that rule today. When you have enough money saved up, you also can afford things that you need, like a car or replacing your washing machine. And that brings me to my next point. Credit cards. Don't use credit cards. The Netherlands doesn't have a strong credit card culture. And when credit cards are used, balances are typically paid off every month to avoid interest charges. The Dutch typically pay for things with their debit card, using money that's actually in their bank account. Like I have a credit card, but I only use it when I have no other option. Which is mostly for international travel, like when booking a hotel or renting a car. And I get no points or benefits whatsoever from using my credit card. That really sucks. Like sometimes I read about these Americans that just have raked up so many points and they can fly business class all around the world for free basically because of all the points that they acquired using their credit card. I kind of wish I could have me some of that. We don't have a credit score system like in the US, where you basically have to use a credit card responsibly to boost your credit score. To prove you're good at borrowing, you must borrow. Isn't that wild? Services like Klarna, where you buy now but pay later, are available in the Netherlands, but most Dutch people prefer to pay for things with money that's actually in their bank account.
Jennifer, buy now, pay later. Ja, doe jij dat vaak? Nee, dat is hartstikke dom. Ik ben heel streng opgevoed met als je het geld niet hebt, dan moet je het ook niet uitgeven. Pas als je het geld hebt, dan kun je het uitgeven.
So if you can't afford it, you can't have it. Yet, if you do use a credit card to pay for everything, I think it's important to be really strict with yourself to avoid building up high-interest debt. If you can't immediately pay it off when your credit card bill is due, don't buy it. This doesn't mean you can never have nice things. It just means you plan for them and save up, rather than mortgaging your future for instant gratification. Save money on utilities. Some Dutch save on utilities by only heating the rooms in their home they actually use, by lowering the boiler temperature, they may air dry their laundry, they may run appliances on eco settings during off-peak hours, or they'll take shorter showers. And not everyone does all of these, of course, and that goes for all the frugal habits in this video. There's no one Dutch person, there's so much diversity. Some people, I'm sure they don't do any of these habits that I'm discussing in this video. But this is based on my personal experience and from the people that I've asked in preparation for this video and just my research. So like a bunch of these are typical. Solar panels have also become really popular. A lot of people I know have installed them. And what would help even more would be closing the curtains. But that seems to go against Dutch nature. Apparently it's a thing. Expats joke about it all the time. I don't know where this comes from. Maybe it's rooted in our Calvinist tradition, this idea that as an honest citizen you have nothing to hide. Get a discount pass. Discount passes are another great way of saving money. In Dordrecht you can get the Dorppass, which is a great deal. It's a local discount card that gives residents access to free or discount activities, culture, sports and services in Dordrecht. It's 50 euros a year, but you can get it for half, for 25 euros if you're a volunteer. And it's even free if you're on a low income. And when I lived in Amsterdam, I had a Cineville card. For just 10 euros a month, this would give me unlimited access to over 20 independent cinemas, and I could basically watch any movie I wanted. This was really cool because all these cinemas had their own independent programming, and they wouldn't just show new movies, they would also show classics. I remember seeing Citizen Kane on a big screen there. Or one time this cinema did a Japanese month and I saw Grave of the Fireflies. Like, it's just so cool that you can see those movies on a big screen. Today this pass costs 24 euros, so that tells you a lot about inflation. But it's still a no-brainer if you enjoy going to the cinema and don't want to watch yet another superhero movie. But the best discount pass in the country is the Museumjaarkaart. The Netherlands is home to over 600 museums. And for just 75 euros, you can get a museum card that gives you unlimited access to most museums in the country, including the Rijksmuseum, Van Gogh Museum and Anne Frank House. A single visit to the Rijksmuseum, the Van Gogh Museum and the Anne Frank House will already set you back €66.50. So the Museumjaarkaart, the museum card, is a no-brainer if you love art, history, science and culture. I wish every country offered something like this. When I lived in Amsterdam, I would sometimes just pop into the Van Gogh Museum after work on a Friday. Back then, the museum would be open until 8 or 9 p.m. just for an hour or so. It was such a great way to distance myself from work. Don't show off. We have a saying in the Netherlands. Doe maar normaal, dan doe je al gek genoeg. Which roughly translates as just act normal, that's crazy enough already. This expression sits at the core of the Dutch identity. It's all about not standing out too much. The Dutch consider themselves a level-headed, no-nonsense kind of people. Nuchter, as we say. Although there are exceptions, of course. It's considered bad form if you flaunt your wealth or behave in an extravagant, attention-seeking way. You're not going to impress anyone if you're all dressed in Gucci or drive around in your Lamborghini. And just a little side note, in The Psychology of Money, which is a great book by the way, Morgan Housel writes that even when people see you in your sports car, they don't care about you, they care about your Lambo. They picture themselves in the car. So spending money on luxury items just to get attention or admiration is a bad investment. You earn people's goodwill through your actions and integrity. Integrity. Through humility, kindness and normaal doen. Acting normal.
Pardon? Doe normaal!
For better or worse, Dutch culture is all about blending in, not standing out too much. Je kop niet boven het maaiveld uitsteken, as we say. Don't stick your head out. I'm not necessarily saying this is great life advice. You could say a lot to challenge this, but it is great for your wallet. It's okay to be average, to be normal. You don't have to push or make hundreds of thousands of euros each year just to prove your self-worth. If you work reasonably hard, you're down to earth, and you complain about the crappy weather a lot, you're good.
Wat een zakkerig is het buiten, zeg. Wat een zakkerig. Moet je kijken, joh. Ik ben gewoon helemaal doorweet.
Get a library card. I love libraries. When I was a teenager, I read so many 400, 500 page adventure books that I borrowed from the library. And later I also borrowed a lot of CDs, which I would then copy onto cassette tapes because I didn't have the money to buy those CDs. I even had a time when I would go straight to the library after school before going home to read comics. I was really into sci-fi comics back then. I'd be totally immersed in them. And when I wrote my history thesis in high school about Che Guevara, I spent many evenings in the library reading books about him, his diaries, making notes. When I was a kid, there was even a spellothèque, which is basically a library for toys and games. They didn't have that much, but one time they had this big transformer. Knew this would have been way above budget. I would never have gotten that. But now I got to at least play with it for a couple of weeks. So yeah, libraries are great. Not just for paper books, but also for audiobooks, free internet, and a ton of magazines and newspapers. Sometimes there's even a cafe. Libraries are a great way to save money without it feeling like a sacrifice. Cycle everywhere. Did you know that the Netherlands is the only country in the world with more bicycles than people? There are approximately 23 million bicycles for nearly 18 million residents. And that could have been even more if the Germans hadn't taken so many with them after they fled home when World War II ended. People use bikes for everything. Commuting to work, running errands, visiting friends, or heading to football or hockey practice. In major cities like Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and Utrecht, biking is the primary mode of transportation. It's often the fastest way to get from A to B. Biking is also affordable. Unlike cars, bicycles are accessible to almost everyone. Compared to many other countries, cycling in the Netherlands is remarkably safe. While there are challenges, especially with the growing popularity of e-bikes and fat bikes, there is great infrastructure, with bike lanes everywhere, bicycle traffic lights, and bicycle traffic signs. What also makes a big difference, in my opinion, is that almost every car driver in the Netherlands is also a cyclist. This dual perspective fosters empathy for cyclists, unlike in some other countries where it can feel like a car versus bike dynamic. And parking your bike in the Netherlands is mostly free. You'll see bikes parked on the streets everywhere. In cities, there are even free bicycle parking garages, which help keep bikes safe and reduce clutter in the city center. I love getting around on a bike, the freedom of being able to go anywhere in the city quickly. And I always feel refreshed after I get home from a bike ride. Don't be wasteful. In Dutch we have the saying, weggooien is zonde, which means throwing something out is wasteful. And recycling is a big thing. Like my parents have 3 or 4 containers in the garden. Honestly, I think it's a bit much for different types of waste. Like organic, paper, plastic, just general waste. And those containers get picked up on different days of the week. My mom is also a member of a WhatsApp group chat on sustainability, where they discuss different ways of living more sustainably. When they find a good product, they buy it in bulk and share it. For a while, they were all buying these laundry detergent strips or sheets. Supposedly, they're better for the environment because they dissolve in the water completely and they're even marketed as plastic-free. But she was so disappointed when the Keuringsdienst van Waarde, a Dutch investigative consumer TV show, found out that these strips actually contained a lot of plastic. There are also sites like Clothing Loop, through which you can exchange clothes, or you can use Vinted to sell them. Marktplaats is huge, it's the Dutch Craigslist. There's also Too Good To Go, an app that helps reduce food waste by letting people buy surplus food from local restaurants and shops at a discounted price. And then there's the Kringloopwinkel, a thrift or secondhand store that sells donated items, giving them a second life instead of being thrown away. When I was a student, I got my sofa and coffee table from there because that was all I could afford. And many years later, when I left the Netherlands, I paid it forward by donating a lot of my items to the Kringloopwinkel. For more inspiration on Dutch habits, you might want to check out my video 5 Easy Dutch Habits to Simplify Your Life, where I talk about Dutch habits like onthaasten, which means unrushing, Dutch directness, and working to live, not living to work. You can watch it somewhere right here or here. I don't know where it's going to end up. Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to download the 100 Frugal Habits to save money. Link is in the description, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.